Zoning Board of Appeals meeting, Friday, November 13th, 2020. First, I'd like to thank Liz Marigold for her leadership and her wisdom over the past few years. She was our leader on the zoning board. I also would like to congratulate Mayor Larson and the village trustees, Christopher Minardi and Sandra Melendez. First on the agenda, we have the minutes from October 9th, 2020. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We have three determinations. I forgot to introduce our new board members. We have three new board members. We have Jim McMullen. He's going to be the vice chair. We have Joe Rose, and we have Andy Barris is going to be an alternate. So welcome, guys, and thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Honored to
So
serve.
Jimmy, I'm not sitting on the Donald R. Mullen determination, so Jim McMullen will take it over from here.
Okay. In the application of Donald R. Mullen Jr., I have reviewed the entire application as well as the record to date and will be part of this determination. That being said, the application of Donald R. Mullen Jr., 67 Cross Highway, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-5-2-12 to make alterations and construct additions to an existing residence is approved.
Mr. O'Connell, is
Approve.
Phil there?
Yeah, I had on mute. Approve.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes, I approve.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes, approved.
Okay, now we have the next determination, which I'll read. In the application of 24 West End Road LLC, 24 West End Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-15-3-5.1 to remove Phragmites and replant with native plant stock is approved.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Then we have the next determination. In the application of Calvin Klein, 75 West End Road, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-15-5-11.1 to make alterations and construct additions to an existing single-family residence, redesign the driveway, construct accessory improvements, and install new sanitary systems is approved.
Mr. McGurk?
Yes.
Mr. Humphrey?
Yes.
Mr. McMullen?
Yes.
Now we have the adjournments. I'm just going to read them all at once. We have Blaustein at 211 Lily Pond Lane, January 8th, 2021. We have Kravitz at 2 Baiting Hollow Road, December 11th, 2020. We have the Maidstone premises of the Lexington Lounge LLC, 207 Main Street, to December 11th, 2020. And we have the Maidstone Club at 95 Junior, December 11th, 2020. Do I have a motion to approve that? Do we need a motion to approve that?
Can't hear you, Beth.
Can't hear you, Beth.
Yes, she says yes.
Yes. So do I have the motions on the floor?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So first we have the application for Frederick A. Terry Jr. I am going to recuse myself on this application, so Jim McMullen will be leading us on this one.
Okay.
And Andy will be a part of this?
Yes, I'm sorry. So we're going to try to call these out as we have them now. So I'm off this one. Jim McMullen is on this one. Andy Barris is on this one. Joe Rose is on this one. Craig is on this one. And Phil is on this one.
And I'll read the notice of hearing.
That'd be great. Thanks, Pam.
Application of Frederick A. Terry Jr., Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-12 12-4-18.1 for area variances from Chapter 278 zoning and a wetlands permit in accordance with Chapter 163 freshwater wetlands to legalize accessory improvements and landscaping. A wetlands permit in accordance with Section 163.3 and a 61.8-foot variance is requested from Section 278.3A8 to legalize clearing of land and landscaping approximately 63.2 feet from wetlands where a 125-foot setback is required. A wetlands permit in accordance with Section 163.3 and variances of approximately 41 feet and 4 feet are requested from Section 278.3A8 to legalize slate walkways and retaining walls located approximately 109 feet and 146 feet from wetlands where the required setbacks are 150 feet. Variances of approximately 13.4 feet, 12.8 feet, 14 feet, and 15.8 feet are requested from Section 278.3A5B to legalize multiple stone walls, piers, and walkways located approximately 6.6 feet, 7.2 feet, 6 feet, and 4.2 feet from the side yard lot line where the required setbacks are 20 feet and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 87,119 square feet in area and is located at 97 Briar Patch Road in Residence District R160 and contains a scenic easement covering wetlands. This project is classified as a Type 2 action in accordance with SEQA.
Okay, thank you, Pam. We have, I think, the representative for the applicant, Rick Whalen. Could you be so kind to give us your presentation, please?
Yes, good morning, Richard Whalen. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, again, good morning. I see some new faces here. Things have changed around a bit since I think the last time I was before you. So I am Richard Whalen. I'm the attorney for the applicants, who are Ted and Barbara Terry. They've owned the property for some time now. Barbara and Ted are seeking to obtain a C of O on the property, for which they need variances, specifically for an area of lawn towards mostly on the western side of the built portion of the lot, and for some very, very minor structures that either don't meet wetland or rear yard setbacks. You have the board as a detailed application narrative dated May 1st, 2020. I'll try not to be duplicative. That narrative may answer questions, some of the questions that you may have. And the narrative also addresses the 5-part area variance balancing test that's set forth in Village Code, Section 278-7C2. The applicants own a 2-acre lot. This is not directly on Briar Patch Road, but off a private road off the very end of Briar Patch Road. The northern part of the lot is encumbered by a scenic easement that constitutes about 1.16 acres, which is about 58% of the lot area of the property. I believe the parcel was created by a minor subdivision the village approved in 1984. That was before the village had a freshwater wetlands law, and when yard setbacks were not as great as they are today. So,
Rich, could I ask you a question about that scenic easement?
yes.
Is the owner of the property responsible for that?
Is the owner of the property responsible? It's part of their land,
It is.
their property.
Okay, all right. It's cleared.
Sorry, I'm sorry, say again. Yeah, the scenic easement is, as I said, about 58% of the applicant's lot, the entire northern half of the lot, and then some.
I can see that.
Yep. So there are basically two things, roughly speaking, two things we're seeking variances for. First and foremost is the clearing or lawn and landscaping. So I won't reiterate the variance amounts that was set forth by Pam in the hearing notice. The area of lawn involved here is not really that great, although I don't have a precise square footage figure. The lawn is mainly at the western end of the property, south of the scenic easement. The original lawn boundary as of 2006 was a little north, ran a little bit to the north of the stone driveway turnaround. I'm assuming that you all have the latest SASCA survey from March of 2020 in front of you.
Yes.
So the original lawn boundary ran north of the driveway turnaround, and then east of the turnaround, it ran roughly about midway between the scenic easement edge and the walkway that you see running eastward from the driveway turnaround to the slate patio on the north side of the house. So it was about midway between that walkway and the scenic easement. Today, it now actually is, well, it will be limited by the scenic easement. We're not obviously asking for any relief for clearing within the scenic easement area. North of the house, the lawn area in 2006 was relatively close to where it is today, pretty close to the southern boundary of the scenic easement. The very western part of this cleared area is not even lawn, it's actually landscaping and shrubbery as you approach the private road. The property does not have a very extensive lawn, as you can tell from the survey, and any of you who've been to the property. A good part of the area south of the scenic easement, the bulk of it is the driveway, including the turnaround area, the swimming pool and patio, and the house, and obviously continuation of the driveway that runs south of the house itself. So there isn't a great deal of lawn on the properties. What lawn there is north of the house and north of the driveway and swimming pool area. Again, it goes without saying, we're not seeking permission for any clearing or lawn within the scenic easement area. As far as I can tell, all clearing that was shown on the March 12th, 2020 SASCA survey, that's your latest application survey, all lawn that was shown on that survey that was within the scenic easement has since been revegetated, again, as far as I can tell. If any lawn area or land within the scenic easement that is shown as cleared has not been revegetated, it will be revegetated prior to our applying for a CFO, and we would update the survey accordingly. The other things for which we need relief are very minor, I would really call them de minimis structures. They consist of 3 slate pedestrian walkways on the east side of the house and 2 short sections of low stone wall northeast of the house, which both end with small piers or pillars made of stacked stone. The westerly stone pillar actually used to be within the scenic easement, but the applicant moved it out of the scenic easement and rebuilt it. I want to note there is a garbage bin shown on the survey at along the eastern property line, and on the survey that you have, it's shown as 0.8 feet off the property line, which if it were in that location would require a variance. Since the survey, though, was updated in March, that garbage bin has been moved, so it is at least 3 feet off the property line in conformance with Village Code Section 278-3A5D, and we will show the appropriate setback of 3 feet when the survey is updated for C of O. I provided photographs of all the structures. As I said, these are really talking slate walkways and the stacked stone walls. In my opinion, they're very minor. The walkways consist of individual pieces of slate with grass growing between them. The stone wall and the pillars on the northern, as well as the northerly slate walkway, are within the village's 150-foot wetland setback for structures. But these are not improved. These improvements have no impact on wetlands whatsoever. They don't pollute. They don't generate runoff in any meaningful sense. And visually, they are innocuous. The same is true of the impact that those structures might have on the neighboring property to the east. Any of the variances sought from yard setbacks concern the property line to our east. That property, the very, very heavy vegetation east of the Terry's eastern property line. And in fact, the house and the other improvements on the neighbor's property are pretty far away from the property line. So if you visit the property, there's no conceivable way the neighbor to the east is even going to see these structures, much less be impacted by them. I do want to point out that the easterly stone pillar is 4.4 feet from the property line, not 6.6 feet. And thus it requires a 15.6 foot rear yard setback variance, not 13.4 feet, which is what's stated in the hearing notice. So the Terrys would very much like to have everything in their property put in order so they can get a C of O and have the property completely legal. So what I would ask that you grant the relief that we're seeking here today, which I think is very minor, so they can move ahead, get a C of O and move on with their lives. So that is my presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Rick. Appreciate that. Pam, do we have any neighbors that we heard on this matter?
I don't believe so, but they should speak up or call in.
Okay,
Currently, there's nobody on the line.
thank you. Billy, do you have anything else to add to this application?
No, I have no comments to offer. I think Rick summarized it pretty well. And I think the photographs he submitted yesterday were very helpful.
Great. Do any other board members or the applicant themselves have any other questions?
No, I've looked at this property several times, and there's lots of lines on the survey and so on, and I finally figured out more. And it looks to me like from the, if you ran from the stacked wall on the eastern side of the property to the western side of the property, anything south of that is pretty much what they've cleared out. And it looks like from the north of there, I don't know, but it may even be that they're trying to revegetate some of that, because it looks like there are some plantings that have been put in and so on. Is that right?
There were, we had to make plantings within the scenic easement area. There was a wetland violation that they were cited for. And at this point, I believe the village, to the best of my knowledge, is basically satisfied with that revegetation.
Yeah. And you also mentioned that there were some other areas that still needed some revegetation, but that was going to happen before a CO was granted, correct?
If there's anything left to be revegetated, we will have to do that before we can get a CFO.
Great. Thank you. Any other further questions?
Jim, I'd just like to note that we received a letter from Gene Casson that's part of the record from October 27th, 2020. So that's my
Yeah. Did everybody have a chance to read that?
I have not. Did you tell me what the letter says?
You have that in front of you?
Can you repeat that?
Pam, do you have that letter in front of you?
Yes, I do.
Could you read
You want me
that?
to read it? Thank you for your notice of hearing concerning the application of Frederick Terry for variances, etc. My house is at 112 Briar Patch Road, across the street from his. In light of all the recent issues relating to the health of Georgica Pond, including the impact of pollution and septic seepage, I wanted to urge the board to be cautious about granting wetland permits. I so appreciate your attention to these and other issues in your difficult job of assessing the requests that come to you. Gene Casson.
Thank you, Pam.
I mean, as I've noted, I think that the relief sought here is not such that would contribute to any degradation of the water quality in Georgia. So that would be my response to the letter.
Right, and as we've heard before, is that there is revegetation going on, and that will all be restored back to the village's liking before any C of O will be granted.
That is correct.
Okay. So if there are no other further questions or comments, I give my request a motion to close the hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll turn it back over to John McGurk.
All right,
Did
thanks,
you
Jimmy.
guys want to discuss it before we move to the next hearing?
The determination?
Yeah, the application.
We can, if that would be the board's feeling. I have
What
no
is this?
problem doing that. So do we want to render our
Sorry,
determination
guys.
now? Phil, do you have any problems with approving this application?
No, I don't.
Joe Rose,
No.
Craig Humphreys,
No, I'm fine with it.
and Andy Barris?
I'm fine with it.
Okay, I am as well. So if we can please write a determination, that would be great.
Yep, no problem.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Beth.
Thanks. The next hearing we have on is 7 West End Road LLC, 7 West End Road. James McMullen will be sitting on it. We have Joe Rose will be sitting on this hearing, Phil O'Connell, Craig Humphreys. Angie will not be sitting on this. Did I leave anybody out? I don't think so. Okay. Pam, can you please read the notice?
Before we read the notice, just one thing. Just as a reminder, John, we're going to start swearing in non-attorneys before they speak. So anybody who's going to speak on this application, if you're not an attorney, Pam's going to swear you in. So you just want to state your name, your address. It can be your business address, and then she's going to read the swearing in. So just so everybody's aware that.
All right. This Lenny Ackerman here.
Let me read the notice of you, Lenny.
We got to read the notice first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go on. Go ahead.
Application of 7 West End Road LLC, Suffolk County Tax Map Number 301-1547 for variances from Chapter 101 Coastal Erosion Hazard Areas and Chapter 124 Preservation of Dunes and Chapter 278 Zoning to make alterations to a legally pre-existing non-conforming building and decking. A variance is requested from Section 278 7C 2D1 to make alterations to a second dwelling / residential use where a residential property is permitted one dwelling / residential use. A coastal erosion hazard area permit and variances are requested in accordance with Sections 1019B and 10119 to make alterations to a legally pre-existing non-conforming building and decking located seaward of the coastal erosion hazard area line and situated on a primary dune. Variances of 56.4 feet and 63.1 feet are required from the provisions of Section 124-1A2 and Section 278-3A7 to make alterations to a building located 43.6 feet and decking located 36.9 feet from the 15-foot contour line where the required setbacks are 100 feet. Variances of 100.8 feet and 107.3 feet are required from the provisions of Section 124-1A2 and Section 278-3A7 to make alterations to a building located 49.2 feet from the edge of beach and decking located 42.7 feet from the edge of beach, where the required setbacks are 150 feet. Variances of 14 feet and 0.8 feet are required from Section 278-3A4A to make alterations to a building located 36 feet from the side yard lot line and 49.2 feet from the rear yard lot line, where the required setbacks are 50 feet, and any other relief necessary. The subject property is 154,772 square feet in area and is located at 7 West End Road in Residence District R160. The property adjoins the ocean beach and is located in FEMA flood zone VE elevation 17, zone AE elevation 10, and zone X. This project is classified as a type 2 action in accordance with CEQA.
Thank you, Pam. The applicant?
Good morning. If you want me to give you the list of potential witnesses here, the consultants on this, and give you their names, and you can swear them all in at once. Beth, you want to do it before the meeting starts?
You can do it now if you know who's going to speak, and then they can all just do it now, and then we don't have to stop for each one. That's fine.
Right. Well, I've got a list of consultants who are available to answer any questions. They're not going to be part of the initial presentation. There's Jim Taylor, the architect, Rich Warren of Inner Science, our environmental consultant, Tom Lawrence, our construction consultant, and Steve Maresca and Katie Maresca, who are our engineers.
Do you want to raise your right hand, please? Everybody?
Lee Wisher.
And state your name.
Richard Warren.
Lee Wisher.
Jim Taylor.
Steve Maresca.
Catherine Maresca.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, I do.
Yes.
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 Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Ackerman?
Good morning. Welcome to the new members. Board. It's a pleasure to be here. I wish I could be in East Hampton in person, but unfortunately with COVID pandemic, I'm hiding out in Florida. First, let me tell you a little bit before I get to the history of this cottage and how we got from what you're looking at to where we are in this application today. Our clients are a young family, small children, an adult son, one child, 6 years old, and a teenage child. They've obviously, pandemic, have been in residence in East Hampton Village, where they have another home. They've had an opportunity since acquiring this property in 2019 to have initially some preliminary maintenance done so that they would have an opportunity to spend time so they could develop with Jim Taylor a program, which is the basis of this application today. This cottage is rather unique. This property has only been owned and approved by Paul Manheim, a very interesting member of the East Hampton community, probably of the same era as Joe Rose's family. Paul Manheim built this in 1963, at the same time that he built the main house, which is in a conforming location outside of FEMA and outside of the coastal erosion. Paul Manheim's cocktail parties on this house on late Saturday afternoon was a scene in itself. Mr. Manheim in his blue blazer and classic white shirt would entertain when young families like the Ackermans would be at Georgia Beach looking up and saying, oh my gosh, this was a very iconic, interesting, the Resnick family want to bring it back to what it was. Between 1963 and the Sandy event, when a portion of the deck was destroyed, as well as some of the beach and sand obviously was relocated. This property had very little maintenance. Paul Manheim died in 1999, and from 1999 to the purchase by the Resnick family, there has been virtually no maintenance on this property. The initial building permit that was granted upon the Resnick's purchase in 2019 basically allowed them to replace the deck. They replaced some of the bathroom utilities, some of the appliances, mostly for safety purposes, and it allowed them to occupy on a limited basis while they invited Jim Taylor and his team in to come up with the program. I wish just to outline for you before we get to a discussion of both the interior renovations and the exterior, that this is a renovation. We're maintaining the existing footprint. These are only interior changes. There's no extension of the deck. In fact, in an area which will show you, the deck has actually been lessened. There's no intensification of the non-conforming status as to coastal erosion, the dune crest, or the beach grass. In fact, they have eliminated a bathroom and a bedroom. The mitigation here is very significant, and I don't think should be taken lightly. The sanitary, which is located within coastal erosion, will be removed. A new upgraded sanitary system will be connected to this by a pipe, so the coastal erosion area will not be impacted whatsoever by sanitary. Most importantly, and pursuant to Billy Hayjack's reference, the cottage is being made FEMA compliant, and I think that's a significant mitigation factor. Let's go through the list of interior renovations. They're raising the ceiling. There's no change in the roof line except for the chimney. There's a prefab fireplace. And again, a fireplace here is significant. This family will be utilizing this on a much more permanent basis than Paul Manheim ever envisioned. In the Manheim case, it was used principally on weekends for his family use. This is a significantly larger family who want to enjoy the advantages of being right on the beach, particularly Georgia Beach. There's some envision here as far as the interiors renovations, removing the bathroom, as I noted, removing a bedroom, again, lessening intensification. The reconfiguration of the rooms, basically, they're reconfiguring a powder room. They're increasing the pantry area of the kitchen. And I think that goes significantly to evidence here of de-intensifying. With respect to the exterior changes, they're doing a deck stair enclosure. They attempted, as you'll note, to do a deck stair improvement on the initial work that was done for maintenance because of the safety concerns. You saw the opening there. However, that isn't working, and it's, with the intense water and rain there, they've decided that it would be best if they had some form of an enclosure and they could maintain within the storage area that they're utilizing their beach equipment. They're proposing a retractable awning and a upgrade of the barbecue and sink. The barbecue they have now is a portable barbecue. They're seeking to do a permanent barbecue. Again, the piping to the new sanitary outside of CHA is part of this application. Removal of the sanitary is part of the application. With respect to window replacement, they're changing out the existing windows, and they're adding new windows on the north and the side, larger windows, and they're replacing the front door. With respect to shingling, they're going to do a roof repair, which has never been done here since 1963, apparently, and they're going to replace, as necessary, the siding. With respect to the grounds for the CH variance, again, we look at mitigation, we look at retreat. There's no reasonable setback location that would not maintain the view, and of course, it would damage the dune. Lee Wisher is available if anyone wants to discuss with him the damage that would result to the dune as a result of retreating. Contractor protocols demonstrated that dealing with the environmental impacts with respect to FEMA and removing the sanitary. Again, I can't emphasize how important it is when you can make a pre-existing non-conforming structure FEMA compliant, and at the same time remove an existing non-conforming sanitary system that is in the dune itself. We've demonstrated through Lee Wisher's report and his testimony, it's available, that this property is safe from flooding. And since 1963, it withstood the Sandy hurricane. They only lost sand plus a portion of the deck area. Again, this is the minimum relief, no intensification, removing a bedroom, again, de-intensification, only one bathroom, and the other interior decorative windows, and looking out to the ocean, which I think is important here in terms of preserving the iconic nature of this property. Of course, this is self-created. Anything that's within existing CEHA, which was pre-existing, has to be self-created. With respect to area variances, grounds, no change in the character of the neighborhood. Again, as I indicated, since 1963, this has been an iconic little cottage located on the beach at Georgia. Very lovely, and has a lot of history and a long story. The variance, again, I believe is not substantial. It's decorative. There's mitigation, no environmental impact, and again, self-created only by virtue of being pre-existing non-conforming. The architect is available. All of our environmental people are available. Steve Maresca is available, and Tom Lawrence, who's our construction consultant, is available. I'll respond to Mr. Sullivan after he speaks, if I have that opportunity. Thank you.
We're going to hear from the village planner now. Billy, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Good morning, members of the board. I prepared a report for the board. It's dated October 28th. I expect everybody had an opportunity to review it. I basically reviewed the project, summarized the proposed improvements as described by Mr. Ackerman, and the site conditions. In terms of describing the project, I just wanted to clarify that the code doesn't define renovation or renovating a building. The code defines work based on when you're within a FEMA flood zone or within the coastal erosion hazard area line. It defines the work as being the magnitude of the alterations that are occurring, and alterations are a structural change in the building, which is being conducted here. So the FEMA regulations, because it's in a velocity zone, require the building to be put on piles, and no improvements below the first floor elevation. Utilities have to be above base flood elevation, and there's a series of anchoring and construction protocols. And that's all relevant if the work that's being conducted qualifies as a substantial improvement, which means that 50% or more of the work, the value of that work, exceeds the replacement cost of the existing structure. As far as I'm aware, that valuation test hasn't been conducted, but the applicant has, I assume, conceded that it exceeds 50% as they are proposing to make the building FEMA compliant. They did submit a revised plan showing how the foundation can be altered and how the helical piles could be installed. They also submitted a revised construction protocol. I reviewed that document and I have no real substantial comments in response to it. I think it demonstrates that the work could occur within sort of the footprint or within the foundation of the existing structure without disturbing the dune. The other component to this is the coastal erosion hazard area law, which is, if you look at the survey, that's the gray line that sits landward of the existing cottage. It encompasses roughly the I guess you'd call it the flagpole portion of the lot that extends out onto Georgia Beach. So the coastal erosion hazard area law recognizes that area as being prone to erosion or has the potential to be erosive. Coincidentally, the coastal erosion hazard area line more or less correlates to the FEMA flood zone line. So just landward of the coastal erosion hazard area line, the FEMA flood zone line changes from a velocity zone to an AE zone. And that's kind of interesting in that perspective. But the other valuation test here is that the coastal erosion hazard area law describes alterations and modifications. And if you're modifying a structure to the point where the work exceeds 50% in value of the replacement cost, the coastal erosion hazard area law says that that type of work requires a variance. And in reviewing a variance request, if the work is so elaborate that it's essentially being a reconstruction, or if you're reconstructing the building, I think the board should look at the variance standards pretty closely, which the applicant has addressed, and decide whether or not, you know, the application meets the threshold for granting of relief. I've addressed the construction protocol and the revised protocol. I have no comments related to that. The sanitary system is being upgraded. This project technically would not require an upgrade, a septic upgrade. So I think that work is viewed as mitigation. And it would be a new innovative alternative septic system that's up near the location of the existing house. I did have some recommended mitigation or conditions of approval. I won't read those, all they're laid out in the memorandum, but if the board has any questions for me, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Billy, I looked at this and I didn't understand what the upgrade of the septic tank system involved. I thought it was going to be at that cottage, but it's not. It's going to be up at the principal structure with a connection from the cottage to the modified septic system as it comes down through the dune or wherever. And that makes it better because, in my mind, because I could not imagine how you could take that cottage and do a lot of major things to a septic system down in there with all the overgrowth. But you're not going to do that. You're going to work at the principal structures surroundings, right?
Yeah,
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah. The septic system is, I guess it's probably a forced main, and it'll be ejected to the new septic system that's up near the existing house. And if you'll remember, just to remind you, when the newer board members, this application was reviewed by the zoning board, I don't know, maybe a year ago or less than a year ago. And that work was to conduct I guess you call it a restoration of the backside or landward side of the dune, where they're going to remove existing non-native vegetation and recontour the dune area around the cottage and revegetate it. So that permit is still, that was an approved permit. They still have the right to act on that permit. And I would assume that work would be conducted in conjunction with the cottage renovation, but I don't know.
That's correct, Billy. It will be.
Yeah, I think we just approved that. I don't think we just approved that a couple meetings back, I believe.
Oh, was it that? Okay.
I think it was pretty recent.
I was up there the other day, clear cutting all that old non-native vegetation.
Sorry, Phil, what did you just say? I'm sorry, Phil, what did you say?
I said I was up there the other day and they were cutting all that non-native vegetation. They had a big crew there, taking it and grinding it and chopping it down. So
I mean, Craig's point, this is Lenny, Craig's point's very important because you can tell from the reason I put the initial photos up for you of the condition of this little 800 square foot cottage upon the Resnick's purchase was to show you, that this thing withstood the Sandy hurricane, and they're making a considerable effort here by both a dune crossing permit. They filed with the DEC. There's non-jurisdiction letter from the DEC. Everything they've done prior to this application demonstrates their environmental consciousness. And in responding to Billy, we did not concede that we're over the 50% rule by going FEMA. We took your recommendation, which was an excellent one. We went to Steve Maresca and we said, Steve, Billy's right. If we can do this, we should do this. We went to the client and the client said, absolutely, we should do this. All right. This would have been part of our original application to do the helical piles. However, we're focused so much on everything above ground that we never got into the basement. The basement has nothing in it. It's a perfect location and fits exactly the needs here.
Len, the pictures that
you're not exceeding the 50% threshold. This project doesn't exceed 50%. I'm not pricing out this project and building this project. I can't tell you what this is going to cost until we get your affirmative determination and we have the construction drawings in place. All right, the drawings you have are for this application, and until we're in a position to price this out, but I can't tell you what this is going to cost. I mean, we did minimal work on the maintenance permit. All right, there's unfounded allegations by Mr. Sullivan and Ms. Weig about how much we spent. I can't confirm that. I don't know that. I don't think the client even knows how much he spent at this point. But all I can tell you is we changed some toilets during maintenance. You saw the condition.
Make a comment. The pictures that you showed on the
Yeah.
was rolling here before doesn't look anything like that house at this point. I don't know. I've been up there. I think all my colleagues have been up there. That house does not look like that at all.
Well, that's what it, yes.
That's
I
a
know.
post-Sandy picture.
So,
I'm sorry, though, John. What's your point, though, John? What do you
well,
think?
the house there's been some maintenance done on the house. I mean, it's in pretty good shape. I mean, it doesn't look like this, the pictures that you have shown.
John, when a house isn't maintained, I'm not debating anything with you. My wheelhouse is not construction. When a house is maintained, all right, over a period of time from at least the death of Paul Mannheim in 1999, there was very little maintenance, if any maintenance done, okay? Prior to 1999, between 1963 and 1999, I have no way of knowing what was done here. There were no building permits, except one building permit pursuant to Sandy to fix the deck, and you saw the condition of the deck. All right. Of course, the deck was. You can see the deck was rebuilt. The toilets and it was made. The bathrooms were made operational, and they cleaned it up. You can see where they painted the repaired boards and the like. It withstood. You know, being on the ocean. However, that shouldn't be a negative for someone who wants to maintain and continue to maintain a property and add some amenities to it. And we shouldn't be getting into what people are spending, all right? That's why we're here asking for a variance. And I don't think we should be dictating to someone whether they should put a fireplace in their cottage or not a fireplace in their cottage. There's no environmental impact. I mean, let's be frank here. All right. We're not expanding in the footprint. We're not expanding the deck. We reduce the deck in size. There's a barbecue going here, a little storage bin going here. We're raising the ceilings inside the house. We're putting in some windows. What is the harm here? Who's harmed by this? I haven't heard anybody harmed. The Zweigs harmed? They don't even see this house. What is their harm? I'd like to hear Mr. Solomon tell me what is his harm.
Why don't we let the neighbor? Is there any?
Okay.
Would anybody like to speak on this application that's not on the board?
There are currently no public callers.
Okay, if someone's going to speak, could they speak up so I could hear them?
Have to make sure you give time to turn on the speakers.
Yes, may I speak?
Yes, please. Nate, please state your name and.
Robert Sullivan, 11 West End Road, East Hampton Village.
Thank you.
Do I swear him in?
To be sworn in.
Okay.
Yes, can you see me?
Mr. Sullivan,
Yes,
do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
The chimney that they want to put on top of the structure is directly in our view from our second and third floor patios. And we object to the height of it. We don't think it has to be 4 foot above the roof or more. As far as the windows, they've all been changed. If you look at what they show at Sandy and what they're showing today, they just renovated the windows. They renovated the inside. It's been totally gutted and redone. Therefore, I don't see why they have to do it over again within a year. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. 7 West End Road, the stone revetment was built in 1978, I believe. That's what it says on I believe one of the reports I read, and was damaged in the hurricane in 78, I believe. And then it was exposed again in Irene, and then the house was exposed again in Sandy. There's been lots of sand added to that location. 2,500 cubic yards of sand was added on October of 2013. And then on an October of 2014, another 5,000 cubic yards were added.
Right.
You know, the cottage to me seems like it's on the beach, not on the dunes, but that's my feeling of it. You know, I think the mitigating factors on having the septic system or the new IA system in front of the house is a mitigating factor. And I think if you did helical piles, I think that would definitely be a mitigating factor on this application. I don't want to see any expansion of any grills, any fireplaces. I'll let you know, I'd be happy you want to do the windows, you want to make it look nice on the outside. I have no issues with that, but I don't want to see any more expansion of
Wait, John, I'm sorry, but I just can't hear everything. What are you saying? You don't, you object to?
I think I don't want to see any more expansion with the roof line, or I think you call it like a bulkhead in the back. I think, you know, this is a unique cottage. It's probably the only cottage of its type in the village of East Hampton, except for the cabanas down at Maidstone Club. So that really sit on the beach. You know, that's my 2 cents. I'll let my other board members add in.
But John, could I just ask you so I understand? The roof line is not changing. We're not expanding the roof.
Well, you're going to add a chimney to it now.
Well, yeah. Oh, that's what you mean by the roof line, the chimney. Okay. All right, Jim. When we get done here, I want you to respond to that. And what was the other thing is it just the fireplace? Is just the fireplace you're objecting to?
You asked for some additions on the back of the home, a bulkhead?
No, I don't know what all right, well, okay. Jim, you're gonna have to explain this and get something on the screen so we can see it. Okay.
I'd like to the other board members though, from the ZBA.
No, I understand. Sure.
So I'm in agreement with John. You know, in closing the bulkhead, that was initially a kind of on that hinge, and I believe it's still on that hinge. It should stay the way it is. And I don't think that on the east side you should expand kind of where that little sink area has always been that you're talking about now, putting a barbecue and some other things in there. You know, I've been going to this beach regularly since 1979, almost daily. And I've seen that foundation exposed several times, as well as the deck hanging several times. My feeling is that we shouldn't allow anything other than maintenance forward of the coastal erosion hazard line. But I am in line with allowing you to, you know, do the internal reno, raise the roof height, but no change to the roof line, including the chimney, no change to what's outside, no enclosing the bulkhead, no to the sink. And I think just so that we have it for the record, we should do the valuation so that we have that valuation for both FEMA and the CDH purposes in our record.
Jimmy or Joe Rose?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement with everything. I know this cottage kind of hangs out in the middle of no man's land when it comes to our winter weather and storms off this thing. So I understand that shoring that up with the helical piles and everything is the right move to maintain the look of this, the overall look, keeping the roof height, the maybe just cleaning up the outside is good, not only for the homeowner but also for the village. And I think a lot of this stuff could be considered somewhat maintenance, but I want to make sure that like all these walls at some point aren't being taken down and then just reconstructed. A renovation by code is really just leaving the exterior walls the way they are. I don't think they should be taken down and rebuilt even in just sectionally. So I think that needs to be carefully watched as well. But other than that, I think everything else is fine.
Jim,
Craig or Joe?
can I just say-
I'm sympathetic to the comments of the other board members. I have a couple of additional questions. One is just, and excuse me if this is my first meeting, so there may be some things I'm not familiar with just procedurally, but there was some mention regarding both in Mr. Ackerman's most recent letter and in a letter from the neighbor regarding the main structure that's going to be, I gather, rebuilt on the property. And I just want to make sure to avoid a segmentation kind of a situation in terms of sequential applications. It's anticipated that this is the last variance being sought for this whole property, or is this part of a sequence of applications?
Well, let me respond to that. First of all, this is the application that's before the board. Okay. When and if the main structure is built, if that requires a variance, we can't be prohibited or asked to waive that application. This is the application that's for the cottage. Okay, it happens that it's on the same piece of property as the upland portion, but the upland portion is out of FEMA and out of coastal erosion. So there would be no coastal erosion application or FEMA, but there might be perhaps a side yard variance application or height variance application. That program hasn't been developed. You can't, constitutionally, you can't ask someone to waive their rights to a future application.
I didn't say anything about waiving anybody's rights. I asked a question in terms of whether it's anticipated that there will be.
The answer is no. Right now,
I thought in the letter, excuse me, I thought in the letter that you sent that it said that the anticipation was that it would be built, the structure was anticipated to be built on an as-of-right basis. I just wanted to.
Well, that's my interpretation of what I've heard, but I haven't even seen any plans for the main house right now. But we don't have any, we're not contemplating any more applications for this cottage at this time. This is what we were asking for, which we thought was reasonable under the circumstances. And right now I'm just trying to see what it is that everyone objects to. Do you object to the chimney?
I think as you said, this and has been echoed by other members of the board. This is one of the most visible. While a small structure, it's probably among the most visible, certainly beachside in the village. And so its impact is, I don't know if impact is the right word, but its presence is certainly felt. And I guess I think the concerns are reasonable concerns as expressed in terms of the impact. And there's an intensification of use. So I'm sympathetic to the sentiments expressed by the other board members. But I do think it's hard to look at some of the variances being sought are all the ones about relating to the preservation of the dune and the FEMA issues seem to me extremely appropriate, and the septic system makes sense. It's hard to look at this within the context of just solely the cottage without anticipating how it relates to the whole property. But I understand the points.
No.
The presence of this cottage from obviously I'm sympathetic. Well, let me be clear. I am sympathetic to the effort to renovate it and bring it into a more usable condition. How to do so in a way that is sympathetic both to the environmental and impact on the character and the of one of the most important parts of the village is also important.
Craig, do you have any comments?
No, I said that I was pleased to see that they are going to upgrade the septic system and that the most of that work will be done at the main house. I I can't relate to the idea that the chimney is a problem, but Mr. Sullivan and his family that live near there, and if it's an obstruction to them, I can't speak for that. They've registered a complaint that I think, or a reservation that I think is certainly within the ballpark of things that are relevant. So I would not be upset about the chimney, but there's somebody that I think is relevant here that is, and so that should be taken into account. That's all I have to say.
John,
Can I just ask?
What? John, can I speak to this or not?
Go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay. Excuse me. First of all, Mr. Sullivan, do you have a photograph to show that your viewscape is impacted by this proposed chimney? Do you have anything to show me that supports your claim?
Just for the record, though, Mr. Ackerman, we got the letter from the neighbors yesterday.
And so did I. So did I.
And I don't think the neighbors' view is at least skewing what I have in my mind with the chimney. I mean, I don't want to see any more expansion of the cottage. And I don't think it's the neighbors that are pushing us in the other direction.
So is it? Just so I can focus, because I got to get Jim up here and see. I want to close this hearing today. Is it just the chimney? Is that what we're focused on right now? Is it only the chimney?
You can do I'm only one vote here. I know. You can do windows. Have the bigger windows. The awnings. They're retractable awnings.
Yes.
You can. I have no problem with that. But no more expansion of basically any of it.
Can I need to understand what that means. It's the chimney, and what else is there? Well, let me just run through the list. Just so that I want to get it resolved. That's all, if I can. All right. So the chimney, I understand. That means the fireplace, because you can't have a fireplace without a chimney. Or
that's not necessarily. You talk to your architect.
All right. Well, then we're going to get the architect on that. The interior reconfiguration of the rooms, you have no issue with, correct?
I don't.
Okay. Let's talk about the exterior. You don't like this deck stair enclosure. That's what you call a bulkhead, right? That's the bulkhead thing.
What you have, what's existing now is what you can have. That's kind of what I'm.
Okay. All right. So we understand that. Okay. The awning, you're okay with the awning?
I'm only one vote, so.
No, I understand, John. That's why I'm going through this with you. I know you are. I understand. But do you object to the barbecue? The sink's already there. They already have a barbecue.
I mean.
You'd rather them have a temporary barbecue
anymore.
The enclosure is getting larger.
It's getting larger. It's growing. We don't want to. No, I mean, you have to get a regular barbecue. I mean, I don't want to tell people.
Okay. I'll get to that. The windows you're okay with, correct?
I am.
Yes.
Okay. So okay. Now, so what we're down to, okay, and I got one other thing I need to understand. First of all, Phil.
Yeah.
If this board starts imposing a monetary limitation calculation on every application within coastal erosion, and FEMA is always calculated at the building department when you apply for your building permit. That's not within the purview. Okay, we're applying for a variance, but we don't know what something is going to cost until we have the final plans and it's out for bid. I think if you start going down calculating and limiting people to what they can spend, there's no reason for you to wear your ZBA hat anymore. You don't need to have Friday meetings because you're not granting variances anymore. You can't take away people's right to a variance. I mean, it's unconstitutional. You know that as a lawyer, it's unconstitutional. You just can't say, oh, if you don't build this within what we say, what Kenny Collins says is 50%.
That is not what I said, Lenny. what
I know, but I see you going there, and I can tell you that is a question is something that will be litigated, and will put the ZBA and the village in extremis, because you just can't say to people, well, if you don't build it within that's what we had with Mr. Phillips. When someone said to Mr. Phillips from the ZBA, well, why do you need such a big house? Well, look, that's what the valve is for. That's what the ZBA is for.
Let me speak, please, because if it was less than 50%, we wouldn't have the FEMA issue.
Lenny.
That's what.
Just a minute, Andy. Just a minute, Andy. Just a second, Phil. We are putting in pilings because Billy recommended pilings, not because we're over 50%. We have no idea what this is going to cost because we don't even know what we can build yet. How can I tell you what it's going to cost? In any event, I just want to clarify, my position. John has given me some indication. You've given me, Jim has given it to me, Mr. Rose has given it to me. I think what I'd like to do is bring the architect on, okay?
May I speak?
I'm sorry, who's that?
That's
Robert Sullivan.
Oh, sure, Mr. Sullivan, of course.
Yes, the drawings that I have that I could view, when you put the pilings in, you're taking out the first floor beam joists. When you put the waterproofing and under the sill plate, you got to change the sill plate. Are you tearing this structure totally down and building it from new?
No, we're not tearing it down. We're putting in, we're making it FEMA compliant because that's the right thing to do. Then why don't you, Mr. Sullivan, I am not an engineer. We have the engineer who designed. Do you want to get into the weeds on that? I'll be glad to respond to you. Okay.
Somehow you're going to get the steel beams in.
I don't think you need
in the floor joists. It's marked on the drawing.
Do you want Steve Maresca to address how he's going to make it FEMA compliant? Do you really want to get into that?
No, the pilings aren't a problem, but it's foot above them. The new pilings are going to support the structure. That's not going to be sitting on the foundation when you're done. That's a breakaway foundation.
Mr. Sullivan.
My question is, if you're tearing out the whole structure, what's going to hold the sidewalls up when you're changing the doors and windows? There's not enough structure left to hold it up. So if you could just, I could feel much better if you could give a guarantee that no outside walls will be torn down.
Well, I have to ask Jim. Let the architect, Mr. Sullivan, just stay there.
Let's move on here. Let's have the architect and the engineer speak a little bit here. Okay.
Yeah, and everyone should be addressing the board, not each other.
Say that again, Beth.
The speaker should be addressing the board, not having conversations with each other.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry.
So, good afternoon, members of the board. This is Jim Taylor speaking. I am the architect. I want to address 3 points that have come up this morning. One is about the chimney. I want to point out, and I guess, Nick, if you can move to the image that shows the house from the southeast as if you're walking on the beach. And I think this is very instructive because it shows how the chimney, there's a rendering, Nick. Yeah, there we go. I want to point out, actually, I have the New York State Code on my screen that I'm looking at right now. The chimney is currently shown in this image at 4 feet 8 inches. We could reduce it to a legal minimum of 36 inches above the ridge. And so I want to float that as, a possible idea that might, help reduce the concerns about it. I thought it was interesting that this image also shows chimneys of a similar, obviously much larger house in the distance. So that was an interesting juxtaposition. With regard to the stair bulkhead, yes, there is currently a door, a horizontal hinged door on the stair. I want to say a couple of things about that. One of them is that it is ineffective when it comes to keeping the rain out of the basement. And for obvious reasons, even though there's nothing in the basement, it's still good for it to be as dry as possible. Secondly, with that door open, even with a handrail around it, I think my client has a very legitimate concern about the safety of an opening. It's a direct drop onto concrete, and they're deeply concerned about the safety of their children. I also want to point out, maybe Nick, if you can jump to the model pictures at the end of the presentation, that the enclosure that we're proposing over the stair is limited to the height of the existing fence, so it would be non-visible from the east. It certainly isn't visible from the north because there's no public access there. And if you jump back to that beach picture again from the south, it's so far back on the deck that it is not visible from the beach. And I think there's another image, Nick, if you go further on, there's a due south image where clearly that bulkhead that stair enclosure is not visible. Finally, I just want to address the concern about the framing. Our instructions to the general contractor will be to maintain every existing piece of fabric that they can while they're executing this work. Thank you.
Can I ask a question to the architect?
Go ahead, Bill.
The southern windows, it looks like on the plans that they look like doors, not windows. Can you just talk to what that?
Sure. Nick, can you go to the comparative plans? Or the plans would be fine. So actually in this drawing, so on the right side, you can see in the proposed elevations, the two fascias that are on the outside, the flanking fascias, those are fixed. And then the four center fascias are operable.
But operable as doors? I mean, would there be access onto the deck? Would those open up like French doors, or are those windows?
Correct. They would open up like French doors.
Anybody, Jimmy, you have a comment or anything?
No, I think we've expressed our concerns. I still believe that chimney, no matter what height it is, it does change the landscape kind of view from the beach. And I'm sure it does at some point impact Mr. Sullivan. I think maintaining the existing profile and everything of the cottage is desirable for the village. And I don't have a problem with that bulkhead being the same height as the surrounding walls that are protecting it from the Georgia beach side.
So you'll allow them to expand the bulkhead in the back, or just so they have?
I don't mind them putting the cover over that bulkhead to make it weather tight and to prevent anybody from falling in there. I don't have a problem with that. The thing with the barbecue is they're expanding that and making basically an outdoor kitchen. That I do have a problem with. I think they should be maintained to what the size of that area is now. What they put in there, a sink or barbecue, and how they lay it out doesn't bother me. Just as long as it maintains the same size. And those are the only two things, the chimney and the barbecue area are the problems that I have.
Kelly, should we be concerned about the protocol of how they're going to do this maintenance work?
Well, the protocol doesn't really address the construction, the specific construction of walls. It talks about where garbage is going to be placed, where project limiting fence is going to be installed. It doesn't get into the level of detail in terms of how each wall is going to be built or rebuilt. But construction protocols usually don't get into that level of detail unless it's an issue of excavation or something along those lines. So
Billy,
you're okay. Go ahead, Jimmy.
Billy, can you correct me if I'm wrong? That a lot of that falls within the realm of the building inspectors or code enforcement, correct?
Yep. I would just like to take the opportunity to clarify two items. I'm not trying to belabor these points, but in Mr. Ackman's response or rebuttal, he said that I recommended making the building FEMA compliant, which I did not. I simply pointed out that it's being labeled as a renovation, and renovation is not a term used in the code, but substantial improvement is, and that's where the valuation test comes into play. And secondly, the coastal erosion hazard area regulations are under the purview and jurisdiction of the zoning board. They're the board that administers the law in addition to the code enforcement officer. And that does discuss the value, how much the work is, how much renovation or alterations are being conducted is a direct link to whether or not it's a modification and what type of variance that's required. So I just wanted to point that out so the record is clear.
I think,
John, could I speak? John, can I ask?
but I we're starting to go here in circles, Len.
No, I know. I want to close this, John. I want to speak to Beth for a second. Beth, we had a matter recently where I needed the weekend to talk to the client. What I'd like to be in a position to do is close the hearing, and we can move this. Having hearings once a month means if I adjourn this, I'm 3 months into getting started here. So what I'd like to do is be able to close the hearing. It seems like we need to submit a plan, if the client agrees, showing, just so I'm clear, no chimney and no barbecue. Is that right? If I get you that with I guess this survey or whatever, and it's approved, you can informally approve it. I can save myself 2 months of moving this project along. We did that. I forgot which one it was, Beth. Was it Daniela or whenever? But I can't call the client now and discuss it with the client, unfortunately, because the Zoom and all this stuff, there's too much going on, and he has to see a plan. He has to talk to his wife and his architect and whatever. But I would like to move these things along. That's
fine for me. I can move forward with a decision without,
right.
with those things removed, and it would be a condition of the approval submitting those documents.
John, are you okay so that we can move things along?
I'm okay as long as Beth, you know exactly what we want.
Yeah.
Okay. But I just want to be clear. It's that I think we need to poll the board, John. Is it just the chimney and the barbecue, the exterior chimney? I mean, if they can do a fireplace without a chimney, you don't care how they do it.
I don't care what you do, to be honest with you. I mean,
inside, in the barbecue, right? In the bulkhead, in the bulkhead. I'm sorry, John.
Jimmy McMullen?
Yes.
On the bulkhead?
The bulkhead, I'm fine with the bulkhead. It could be a safety issue. So
yeah, it is a real safety. Okay, so those are the two. Jim, you're on. You understand what we're doing here, right, Jim? Jim
Taylor.
Yes. Understood.
Okay,
right.
You got to do your end of it. Okay, so could I ask that the hearing be closed?
May I speak first?
Who's that?
Robert Sullivan.
Okay, Robert.
With the amount of work being done on this structure, and they keep bringing the word up to code, are the exterior walls going to go from a 2x4 to a 2x6? I don't have a full set of plans to know what they're renovating on the exterior walls. But I see
that was one of my concerns. This is Jim McMullen. That was one of my concerns, and they've stated that their intention is to leave the existing framing the way it is, except for the enlarging of the maybe window sizes or door openings. But that will fall on the code enforcement officer to make sure that happens, if that is what we deem we want to make sure that happens.
I'd like, because I have the feeling that the way they're showing the roof's coming off, they're going to reconstruct it. The ceiling's coming out, they're going to reconstruct it. The floor is coming out in a lot of places to get down to the pilings, in like 10 places. I just want to make sure they weren't tearing the building down.
No, that as far as I'm
I don't think they can tear the building down.
No, I think once that building gets torn down, then you can't bring it back. That
Yeah,
is my
right, so-
understanding of the way the code enforcement is going to look at it, and as well as I think Billy Hayjack.
So
So-
Mr.
My
Chair,
concern, as I said, once they gut the inside to do the work in the basement, if the building should collapse, it can't be rebuilt. I'd like to see that stated.
Oh, no, wait a minute.
Now, I know what's gonna happen here, Lenny.
Mr.
There
Sullivan,
isn't nothing to hold the walls up.
Lenny, it's not you and Mr. Sullivan. Let's.
I know, but you're getting into the
I
weeds
get it.
here.
I think
No.
we should close the hearing.
I have one question.
I'd like to
No,
make a
I
motion.
think
to
you
close
should-
the hearing. All
I
in favor?
object till we get answers on the construction method in detail.
Mr. Chair,
I had a question.
Go ahead.
So this question is for Mr. Taylor. If we're considering allowing the bulkhead, as Jim said, what is, I don't have the plans open, Mr. Taylor, what's the height and width and length of the bulkhead so that we have, because that's going to have to go in the determination then, right?
I can give you, so the height is 6 feet because it's lining up with the top of the existing fence. And I can just tell you the numbers straight off the screen, but we'll put these in the building permit application. The width is 4 feet because that's the width of the stair from the edge of the fence. And the length is approximately 9 feet.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for answering that.
Joe, you had one.
yeah,
other
I just
question?
want to make some observations just so that they're on the record, if the record's being closed, about concerns that I have. I think I am concerned about the issue of segmentation. So I am relying in my assessment of this on the representation that Mr. Ackerman made, that the anticipation is that the main dwelling is intended to be as of right within the context of the zoning. I am concerned about the presence of the cottage as it is perceived from, yes, to the surrounding neighbors, but especially to the beach side. And I think, so turning the windows, the south side windows into doors is a concern. I have no problem with improving the windows and expanding the windows, but having them turn into doors, making that an open presence onto the beach at that scale, I think is significant. And I have a concern about the scale of the awnings as in their open perception as seen from the beach. Just want to put those points on the record.
Okay.
John, can I?
Yeah, fine.
Mr. Sullivan, I respect your concern. I respect your observations. I think they're not necessary. However, you're directing your inquiry to the wrong body. When the plans for construction are done, they will be filed with the building department. At that point in time, if you object to the issuance of a building permit with those plans, you have a remedy to appeal to this board. It doesn't have construction drawings. You can't ask us to give you construction drawings and have you be a second set of eyes to the building department. And you also can't dictate how we're to build this cottage. But you have relief as a neighbor and as a citizen to contest the issuance of a building permit. And that's where you should be directing your questions or your issues or your objections. We can't impose upon this board and have them substitute their judgment for the building department. I don't take issue with anything you say. I can't answer it. I don't think Jim Taylor can answer. They don't have the detailed construction drawings. So, because we don't do construction drawings until we know we're going to get a permit from an approval from the ZBA to go to the next step. That's why we can't price something. That's why we can't budget something. It's premature. And that's why it's always done at the building department when we talk about the 50% rule. But I have to leave it to the board to make their decision. I would apply and ask that you close the hearing so that we can move forward. We will then discuss with the client if he is prepared. His options are to make these changes with, eliminate the chimney and eliminate the barbecue, or in the alternative, what he can do is leave the cottage just the way it is. Leave the sanitary where it is, leave the cottage without FEMA, and move on and live in it the way it is. And that'll be his choice to make. Okay. However, I would ask that you close the hearing.
Anybody on the board have anything to say?
No.
Okay, I make a motion, we close the hearing. All in favor?
Okay.
Aye.
Aye.
Beth, I'll be in touch with Beth on Monday.
So, we have a renotice for Lily Pond Equities, 33 Lily Pond Lane. So that will not be heard today. I have a motion to close the hearing.
Motion.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Mr. Sullivan. Thank you. Thanks, Craig. Always a pleasure to see you.